Hi, I'm Charmaine. Welcome to Curiosity Over Fear, where we have the difficult conversations about overcoming fear with courage and curiosity. So, whether you're looking to change something with your career or just everyday life, I invite you to join me on this journey to be less fearful and more daring. There's this moment underwater when your vision narrows, your breath tightens, and your body wants to panic. That happened to me the first time I swam into a cave. Everything in me said, turn back. But then I asked myself, what if I imagined what it might feel like to make it through the other side? That thought helped me pause, breathe, and just keep going. And honestly, I think that's what mental health often asks of us, to stay curious in the moments we want to run, to gently explore the parts of ourselves we usually avoid. So, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I want to talk about what it means to explore our inner world, not from a place of judgment or fixing, but from a place of wonder. When we think of exploration, we usually picture like mountaintops, ocean floors, or far off galaxies. But the more I looked into mental health awareness, the more I realized it wasn't until pretty recently that we've barely scratched the surface of the human mind. For the most part of history, mental health wasn't something people talked about. It was misunderstood, feared, or just flat out ignored. So let's take it back into history for a second. I actually did some digging on the history of mental health. And what I found was that in ancient times, people thought mental illness was a spiritual or moral failing. In ancient Greece and Rome, thinkers like Hippocrates tossed around ideas about imbalances in the body, like the four humors, which is the blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, which they believed controlled your health and your emotions. But treatments were still super basic, and many still believed things like demonic possessions were to blame. Now, fast forward to the 1700s and 1800s, which was the asylum era. And this was definitely not about healing, it was about locking people away, basically out of sight, out of mind. And mental illness was treated like something to contain and not to understand. Thankfully, reformers like Dor I'm not gonna say her name right, Dorothea Dix, who fought for better conditions in the US hospitals, and Philippe Pinel removed the chains from patients in French asylums and started pushing for more humane treatment. But we still definitely had a long way to go. Then came the early 1900s, where you get Freud and psychoanalysis. And this is when we started to pay attention to our inner world, or your childhood, your emotions, your unconscious mind. This was a big shift, but therapy still wasn't accessible or normalized. Then in the 1950s and 60s, this was when the biomedical model took hold. Medications like antidepressants and antipsychotics came into the scene, and mental health was now being treated more like a medical condition, but the stigma was still very real. And then in the 70s and 90s, this which is the self-help era, where psychologists like Carl Rogers, who pioneered person-centered therapy, and Abraham Maslow, who was known for his hierarchy of needs and focus on human potential, helped shift the conversation. So we started paying more attention to emotional well being, relationships, and environment. So things like self worth, boundaries, and healing began entering the chat. Now, from the early 2000s, mental health is finally becoming more mainstream. The internet is what helped us give us access to therapy, to tools, and shared stories. Celebrities started opening up about their anxiety, depression, and trauma, and we began talking about burnout, boundaries, inner child healing, emotional regulation, stuff that wasn't even on the radar just a few decades before that. Actually, just a few decades ago. But honestly, we're still learning and unlearning, but we've come a long way. And to me, all of this is proof that our inner world, that's the most important frontiers of all. This whole idea of exploration actually came to me recently when I learned about the Explorers Club. It's this historic clubhouse made up of adventurers, scientists, and people who literally push the boundaries of human knowledge. They've been to the tops of mountains, the depths of the ocean, and even outer space. And it got me thinking how curiosity over fear is also a kind of exploration, not to far off lands, but into something just as wild, our inner world, or the inner world, period. Our emotions, our relationships, the beliefs we've inherited, the parts of us we've buried or avoided or never really understood. It may not involve climbing Everest, but it does take just as much courage because it asks us to go inward into pretty much uncharted emotional terrain to explore the unknown inside of us. Like, why do I shut down when I'm hurt? Where did this belief about myself come from? What am I really feeling beneath the anxiety? And just like crossing a dense jungle or swimming through a cave, we have to navigate fear, uncertainty, and unexpected obstacles. The terrain is emotional instead of physical, but it's just as wild. And that's where curiosity comes in. It's the compass. Explorers don't go in blind, they bring in tools, knowledge, and maps. And in mental health, curiosity is that map. It's what helps us pause instead of react, ask instead of assume, stay present when everything in us wants to shut down. Journaling, therapy, mindfulness, these are our modern tools. And just like early explorers charted paths for others, when we heal, we help make the path easier for those who come after us. Because when we tend to our inner world, we show up differently. We listen better, we connect deeper, we build bridges across generations, relationships, and cultures. So, yeah, mental health might not get you a passport stamp or a plaque on the wall, but it is an expedition. And here's one more thing I want to say. We're taught to treat mental health like it's a problem to fix. Like anxiety, get rid of it. Burnout, just push through it. Depression, just be more positive. But what if we pause? What if we ask not what's wrong with me, but what's going on here? I've actually started to see mental health like emotional geography. Some parts are rocky, some parts are soft, and some are still underwater, waiting to be discovered. And like any explorer, we need patience, curiosity, and compassion. Mental health isn't just about the mind, it's about the whole human. And sometimes healing starts with simply saying, hey, you matter. Let's get to know you. Okay, so here's actually a quick nerdy side note because I find all things brain related fascinating. When we're afraid, the amygdala, which is the brain's internal alarm system, activates. It narrows our focus, senses our body, and prepares us to run or fight. We basically kick into survival mode. But when we're curious, a whole different part of the brain lights up. We explore, we imagine, we connect. Curiosity literally expands our awareness. That's what I've learned in freediving. The moment fear kicks in, my body tightens, my heart races, my breath hold sucks, and just like that, I can't go deep. But when I stay curious, when I observe and trust, everything shifts. And I find the same truth in emotional work. Curiosity softens fear. One of the most powerful questions I've learned to ask is, what might this be trying to tell me? Not, why am I like this? Not, what's wrong with me? But, what's underneath all this? Sometimes the answer doesn't come right away. Sometimes it comes in patterns, in pauses, in silence. Mental health isn't about conquering your emotions, it's about exploring them. And like any good explorer, you don't judge the terrain, you get to know it. And here's something else we don't talk about enough: how mental health isn't just internal, it's relational. When we do our inner work, we show up for others with more grace. We don't rush to fix. We listen. We hold space. This is why curiosity is so powerful, not just within us, but between us. So, whether you're deep in your healing, showing up for someone else, or just trying to stay afloat in a chaotic world, remember, your inner world is worth exploring, and you're not alone on the path. And curiosity, that's the compass. Thank you for listening. Whether this is your first episode or you've been with me for a while, I'm really glad you're here. These conversations aren't always easy, but they're necessary. And I hope today's episode reminded you that you don't have to have it all figured out to be worthy of care, connection, or curiosity. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on social media at Curiosity Over Fear. And if you think someone else could benefit from this episode, feel free to share it. And don't forget to subscribe to Curiosity Over Fear so you never miss an episode. Your support helps the podcast grow and reach more people who, like you, are choosing curiosity over fear. Remember, the choice is always ours: fear or curiosity. I hope you'll choose curiosity today and every day. Stay curious, stay courageous, and always ask yourself, what would be possible if you led with courage and curiosity? If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to leave me a review so that I can send you a free Curiosity Over Fear sticker. Then after writing the review, claim your free gift by taking a screenshot and sending it to me via direct message on Instagram at Curiosity Over Fear. Thank you for joining me this week on Curiosity Over Fear. If you haven't already, subscribe so you can get a reminder to tune in every other Thursday for new episodes. And remember, always ask yourself, what would be possible if you led with courage